Jeff Albert, and I work for a company called Total Senior. We're a huge company. There's 3 of us. Senior housing in Santa Clarita is it's kind of a sad thing to talk about, and there's a lot of reasons why. First and foremost, my title, Senior Care Consultant, is kind of a made-up title. When you have 3 people, you can choose your own title. That's what I chose. So who we are, just real quickly, Daniel Segal, he founded Total Senior, and he's our CEO, and he founded it about 7 years ago. After a successful career in commercial real estate, he grew up in the boarding care industry, and we'll get to what boarding cares are. His mom owns 2. So at 11 years old, he was the youngest activities director in the industry. But he started Total Senior when he had trouble placing his grandmother, who was actually a low-income senior. All she had was Social Security, and he thought there was better resources out there, so that's why he started Total Senior. We have Perry. Perry's our community partnerships, and she does our marketing. So we have an internal grading process. So we don't refer or contract with any communities that we don't know, that we haven't vetted, that we haven't toured, and we haven't graded. And Perry's responsible for that. She's a licensed RCFE administrator. And then there's me. So my job is I deal with all our clients. I'm with all the placements, and it allows these other 2 to do their thing while I manage the actual placements. So the different types of senior housing. So there's the independent apartments communities, the independent living, assisted living. And independent living is different from the apartments and communities, and we'll get to that. There's the memory cares, the boarding cares, and the skilled nursing facilities. So independent communities and apartments are the communities that are designated for people who are 55 and older, and they're the kind that you think about, like Friendly Valley. That would be, a designated 55 and over. Belcaro, where no care is provided, but it's a community for people who are over 55. Sometimes they have activities, sometimes they don't. It just depends. A lot of it is resident driven. They don't necessarily have like an activities coordinator or activities director. Some of them, as we know, are somewhat subsidized, like Vintage Bouquet and Candy Country Senior Apartments are subsidized on some level, and sometimes they're not. Again, Friendly Valley, that's an ownership thing. You buy in, it's not subsidized. And same with Fountain Glen. Fountain Glen used to have one that was low income, and that converted, and that's no longer low income. In Santa Clarita, the issue that we're having is this right here. They are characterized by long waiting lists and rent increases, and a lot of rent increases to the point where it's pushing people out. Unfortunately, this is not something that we really deal with at Total Senior. They don't like working with people like us because we try to negotiate rates and they don't like to negotiate. So when we go to independent living, this right here is an independent living out in Palmdale called Holiday Retirement, because we don't have one in Santa Clarita. So how does that differ from the apartments in the communities? It differs by a couple ways. One, they don't provide care, but they usually have an agency they contract with that's in-house that will provide care at an additional cost if needed. They offer restaurant-style dining. So it's like a restaurant. You go down there, there's tables, there's wait staff. They bring you what you want. They have a different menu. They have an activities coordinator. So they have activities and outings that are planned and structured. Ample socialization opportunities. But right now, like I said, there's none of these in Santa Clarita. And as far as I know, there's none planned. But they cost around $2,000 and up for a studio. I don't know about you, but $2,000 on a fixed income seems like a lot of money to me. But again, they factor in this resort-style living. That's the way they kind of bill it, that this is resort-style living because there's housekeeping, there's activities, there's food, there's a restaurant-style dining. They say you can pretty much live here and not have to leave. The next thing we have is there's a new type of independent living. And this one is for addressing the lower-income seniors. So it's a residential tract home. Just think about a regular home, usually a 4-bedroom to sometimes 3-bath home. They share rooms, and they will put 3 and 4 seniors into a room together. And you'll sometimes have 8 to 10 people in a house sharing 2 bathrooms. All right? They provide 3 meals a day. They have a quote-unquote house manager whose job it is to kind of keep the place clean and to provide meals. but they're not licensed, they're not regulated, and that's the scary part, is there's absolutely no regulation of these kind of transitional homes, zero. And they don't provide any care at all, and they charge around $800 a month, starting. Some are $1,200, some are $1,600. They charge what they can get away with. And there's a couple of them out here in Santa Clarita that don't go up to that 10 person. They keep it around 6 or 7. But think about it. You know, the one that I'm not a real big fan of, but the one that I visited here in Santa Clarita, they're charging $1,200 to $1,300, and they have 6 residents. So you figure they're making $7,800 a month, $7,000 a month, something like that. And they're not providing any care. They're giving you 3 meals a day, basically 3 hots and a cot. So now we have assisted living facilities. This one right here is Atria over there at the top of Lyons. So what sets these apart is these are licensed and regulated by the state of California under Title 22. They have specialized programming. So instead, they have their bingo and they have their knitting clubs and things like that, but they also have specific programming that's geared towards your mind elasticity, that's geared towards issues with aging. They have support groups. The better ones employ the research and evidence-based styles. Some of them, like Belmont, which we don't have out of here, Oakmont to some extent, work with a university programming of certain sorts to help with these programs, to help with the issues people face when aging. Again, they have that restaurant-style dining, but what really sets them apart is that 24-hour care. They have care 24 hours a day, and they have a limit to what kind of care they're going to provide, but generally anything that you need, incontinence care, helping getting in and out of bed in the morning, a lot of them will do. But the way that they pull you in is they have a 2-tiered cost structure. And I hear this all the time. My mom needs care. And I say, great, let's talk about what's going on. And we get through it and we find out that mom needs a lot of care. And I say, what's your budget? And they say $3,500 a month. And I say, okay, if we're going to stay in Santa Clarita, we're not going to do it at one of the largest assisted livings around here. It's just not possible. And they say, well, I called one and they told me it's only $3,500 a month. They're not wrong. It is $3,500 a month, but all that $3,500 a month is going to pay for is the rooms and meals right here. There's a base cost, and that is just your rooms and meal. That's what gets you in the door. Anything you need for care, it's additional. So let's just say mom's pretty independent, but she has a little bit of a memory issue and can't take her meds on her own. She needs someone to hand her her medication. That's an extra $500 to $600 off the top right there. Mom needs help getting in and out of the shower. That's going to be another $1,200. All of a sudden now this $3,500 place is at $5,000, $6,000. I have a client right now, I'm moving out of a large assisted living facility. Her base rent is $3,800. Her total monthly cost is $9,000 a month. All right? So, and it's based off of what they call, they have a formula. It's based on the number of passes that a staff member has to make, or a number of interactions that they're going to be required to make with your mom or your dad throughout the day. Most of them do have a memory care unit, which is a unit specially designed for people with dementia and Alzheimer's. And again, they have that resort-style living because they have the restaurant-style dining, they have the housekeeping, they have the activities, they have the outings. You know, so in Santa Clarita right now, there's 4 options, 5 if you count the fact that Oakmont has 2. But really, there's 4 labels out here. There's Pacifica, Sunrise, Atria, and Oakmont. So the way that I describe this is I have a significant other who's got a shopping problem. So I call Sunrise, just to give you Pacifica, it's kind of an animal on its own. But Sunrise would kind of be like your Macy's. You can find some really good deals, but you can also find some really nice stuff there too. You can kind of go either way. Atria is kind of like Nordstrom's. A little bit nicer, the customer service is a little bit better, the fixtures are a little bit nicer and not as crowded. And then Oakmont's going to be like your Bloomingdale's. You're going to walk in and you're going to have a private shopper. And the prices reflect that. So Sunrise and Pacifica are roughly around the same rate. They're the closest competitors in that regard. Atria is in the middle of these two and Oakmont's at the top of the hill. Some differences though. Just Pacifica if somebody is a little bit, let's say, larger, and they need 2 people to help them get out of bed or use a Hoyer lift, Pacifica's not going to do it, and neither is Atria. But Sunrise and Oakmont will do it. All these options have a memory care unit. Right now, the lowest price without care is $26.10 a month, and that's because it's a shared studio. A shared suite. So you walk in, there's a shared entryway, and then there's one room that has its own bathroom facilities, and another room that has its own bathroom facilities. And the one that's 2,600 is really tiny, so nobody wants it. But that's without care, and that's been around for a while. But in Santa Clarita, there's a surprising number of independent seniors who live in these communities. There are people that they just like the idea of the fact that there's people around, one, that do their laundry and clean their house. They like that restaurant-style dining. They love the socialization opportunities. They have a lot of friends. They like the outings. But the one thing they also really like is they like that safety net. A lot of these independent seniors are starting to get to that age where they are afraid of falling, or maybe they've fallen before. And they like that idea of having that safety net, of having people around in the event that something should happen to them. And to be honest with you, it's not a bad idea if it's feasible within your budget. And just to let you know, so Oakmont to Santa Clarita is 100% full. That's the one on Copper Hill. On Newhall Ranch Road. The one on Copper Hill, not so much. But Sunrise, Atria, and Pacifica have very, very few vacancies. It's really tight right now. Let's go into the memory care. So as we talked about, that memory cares are designed to accommodate people diagnosed with Alzheimer's and dementia. You can't go into a memory care unless you have one of those diagnoses. They're secure, but not locked. So that means that, take those doors back there. Those doors will not be locked, but they will have a delayed exit. You'll usually have to hold on to the exit bar for about 15 seconds, and then an alarm goes off and alerts the staff, and the staff will come running. And I've tested them, and the staff is pretty responsive. They're smaller than large assisted living communities. So if we go back to let's say, Sunrise has about 80 regular assisted living rooms, which is people without dementia or any kind of cognitive impairment. They have about 30 in their memory cares. So they have a smaller population, a little bit more manageable. And there's no specialized communities in Santa Clarita like Summerford Place or Silverado. You have to go to the Valley for that. But they are more expensive because the residents of memory cares require a lot more hands-on, a higher staffing ratio. You can figure about $1,000 to $1,500 a month. So this is a boarding care. This one right here, if I had to hazard a guess, would be Trudy's Boarding Care, owned by Waldy Lopez. So these, again, have the same license as your large communities like Atria and Sunrise, also regulated by Title 22. Difference is they have 6 residents. These are residential tract homes. The cost is all in. So that means that there's no two-tier cost. If they tell you it's going to be $3,500, it's $3,500. There's no extras. But they have very limited activities. They're limited in the number of people they can take with dementia, and they're also limited in the number of people they can take with hospice. But that's upon admission. That doesn't mean that if you're a resident before you have this diagnosis or you go on hospice, you can stay. The state's not going to require them to kick you out. Difference is it's family-style dining. You eat at a dining room table, limited menu. Activities are limited, and it's not because the homeowners don't want to. It's because the residents, quite frankly, at that point in time, usually just aren't interactive. Usually people in a boarding care are people with a more advanced dementia or Alzheimer's, and they're just not interacting with their environment anymore. Right now in Santa Clarita, we have approximately 65 licensed communities. Actually not licensed, I'm going to say operating, and that number fluctuates because there's a couple that aren't operating right now. The lowest price is going to be around $2,000 for a shared room, and I wouldn't put my worst enemy in that community, but it's available at $2,000, and it goes up to $6,500 and up. So it's not necessarily cheaper, but it has its advantages. In Canyon Country, where we are right now, there's 5 homes in Canyon Country, and the lowest is going to be around $2,750 for a shared room, $6,500 for a private room. There's none past White's Canyon. There's one in Canyon Crest, which is off of White's Canyon, kind of across from the park, going up the hill. There's one in North Oaks, kind of near Cedar Creek Elementary School. And then there's 3 off of Langside and Soledad over there in that neighborhood going into Rio Vista. Incidentally, it's in this neighborhood is where you're going to find the $2,750 for a shared room, but you're also going to find the $6,500 for a private room. Different homes, but I think the most affordable and the most expensive are all in Canyon Country. And then skilled nursing facilities, which Dr. Dorio spoke about last week. You can read that. I don't need to read it to you, but it's not really a long-term option. But a lot of people think it is, and they mistake it, but it's not really a long-term option. Long-term beds are really, really hard to come by because they use a medical model versus a social model. Remember, we were talking about the programming? They don't really do that here. They just want to manage your meds. Most of the time, people are admitted because they need med adjustments. They had knee replacement, need physical therapy, or they broke a hip, and they need that physical therapy. They have a feeding tube, a trach, or something similar. And they're not really considered secure. There's one in Burbank, but we don't need to get into that. So how does one pay for housing? We all agree that this is like ridiculously expensive, right? At least I think so. So a lot of it's private pay. Medi-Cal and Medicare do not pay for that, with a couple of exceptions. So there's veteran aid and attendance. If you serve during certain dates, you're eligible for, if you're single, up to $1,800 a month, $1,872. And if you're married, you're eligible for in between $2,100 and $2,200. And long-term care insurance. But Medi-Cal does fund the California Assisted Living Waiver Program, and that pays anywhere from in between $45 and $50 a day to around $90 a day. It's a formula of your care needs and your finances is how much they decide they're going to pay. Here's the issue, though. One, no one in Santa Clarita participates in the Assisted Living Waiver Program. Not one. The other problem is it takes some time to qualify for it. An attorney that I do a lot of work with recently went to a seminar on the California Assisted Living Waiver Program and said currently right now it's anywhere from 11 months to 18 months before you're going to get a bed. And then the second one is the California Program for All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly, the PACE program. That's administered through nonprofits, but it's funded through Medi-Cal and Medicare. There's no PACE district for Santa Clarita or Antelope Valley for that matter. It's only in the San Fernando Valley. It's really easy to qualify. If you have Medi-Cal and Medicare and you have two needs that require doctor supervision, they're minimal. It could be high blood pressure and high cholesterol. As long as you need medication and be monitored by a doctor, you're going to qualify. What they do is if you get into one of their contracted assisted livings, again, none in Santa Clarita, but in the San Fernando Valley, if you live in one of their contracted communities, they'll pay for part of the housing, so it'll subsidize it. I do the placements for the PACE program in the San Fernando Valley, and I have a client that I've placed that only makes $900 a month, and the PACE program was able to pick up the rest, and they were able to get into a decent community and receive the care they need. And again, easy to qualify, 2 weeks versus a year. But you give up your doctors. You have to use their doctors. All right? So, again, the short answer is no. Medi-Cal and Medicare, don't count on them. Don't count on them to pay for anything, and don't count on the state to pay for anything. But in a SNF, the PACE program, the ALW program, any communities, this is another question I get all the time. Do any communities in Santa Clarita accept SSI or Social Security? The answer is no, not one of them. Not a one. In the San Fernando Valley, again, yes, but not out here. What happens when someone runs out of money? They go to a Social Security community. Again, none out here. We call them Social Security communities because if you sign over your Social Security, they'll give you $100 back for incidentals, and they'll put you in a room with 3 other people. Or you go into a SNF. And if someone cannot afford housing, what do? You call me and I'll help you. We do have solutions for that. Using the PACE program and also using some other innovative things where we're able to tap into Medicare to get some support services and or Medi-Cal to get some support services. I'm not going to really tell you how I do that because that's kind of what makes me special from my competition, quite honestly. So what do we do? So at Total Senior, when you call, a friendly guy named Jeff always answers the phone, and we provide resources related to all of these, the Medi-Cal, Medicare, VA aid and attendance. We also tour, pre-screen, and vet and rate the community. So that means that we're regularly touring all the communities, and that's Perry's job. All she does all day long is goes in and out of communities. She collects, at minimum, 7 pages of information on these communities, and we have a proprietary grading system where they're graded on 10 different categories, and they're weighted, and we come up with a score, and that's how we know which ones, that's how I know, without being able to go into all the communities, which ones are good and which ones are bad. The other thing that we do is, now we know there's about 65 operating communities in Santa Clarita. So if you're looking for housing for a loved one, are you going to call all 65 places? Maybe. Or you can call us, and we're going to give you the best available based off the fact that we've graded them based off of their licensing reports, the minimum of 7 pages of information we collect, and our proprietary grading system. We're going to know which ones are going to be able to accommodate your needs the best in the budget you want, in the geography that you want, hopefully, and find those vacancies for you. And we also provide concierge services for in-home care, doctors, hospice, and similar. We're kind of like a one-stop shop. So anything senior resource related, this is kind of where the business is moving in general. And, the best part is that we will answer any of your senior related questions for free. And all the services we provide are at no charge to the families that we work with. So if you're looking for anything senior care related, we don't. The only way we get paid, in all transparency, we get paid in housing. We get a commission based off of, if we introduce someone to the community and they move in, we get a percentage, and that's how we keep our lights on, pay our mortgage and our car insurance, etc. But for these other things right here, we don't get paid. It's something that we do as a service. We also refer people to support groups. I know the Alzheimer's Association has a representative here, and we refer a lot to them because, one, they have a social worker there, and two, they provide a lot of programming and a lot of support for caregivers, for people with Alzheimer's, as well as people with Alzheimer's that don't have advocates for them, like family members, to advocate for them, and they're a great resource. So how do we do it? It's usually about a 20 to 30 minute intake consultation. Then we provide you with the options. We tour with you. We collect the feedback for the tours, and then we rinse and repeat it if necessary. So if you don't like what we gave you first, we're going to give you the first tier, meaning the best options that are available. And then if you don't like those, we're going to go down to the second best options that are available. And we're just going to keep doing it until we find a community that satisfies what you're looking for. And we assist with the transition in any possible way that we can, including helping move people. Again, services are free for the families we work with. We never have any charges. We're independently owned and operated, which means that we're not a franchise. And there's a lot of people that do what we do that are franchises, and you wouldn't know it, but they are. And they charge, and they have to split fees with whoever they franchise with. They have other overheads, royalties, similar like that. What makes us different by being independently owned and operated is we can waive our fees to make moves happen. So, and we do that. If a community wants $3,000 to move someone in and the family only has $2,600 a month, we'll waive our fee and say don't pay us, but just take their $2,600. So this is all my contact information. If you have any questions about senior housing, one thing that's not on here that we're moving towards, and I know my boss Daniel wouldn't be happy about me spilling the beans right now, but we are moving towards starting a nonprofit foundation to help defray the cost of senior housing because, as Alan alluded to, there's some changes coming down from the state, and it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. So for low-income seniors, with these impacted lists for PATH. I don't know if you guys know PATH, the Program to End Homelessness or something like that. They operate a lot of senior housing, but their wait lists in some of their buildings are closed. So what happens? They end up in one of these transitional housing where they're sharing a room with three other people for $800 a month. So we're working on something to help defray some of these costs. If you have any questions, again, there's my information. I have 0 operating hours. I work and answer my phone 7 days a week, and there's no such thing as bugging me. We're here as a resource for the community, and that's why all of our services are free of charge, and we help people without getting any kind of compensation ourselves, because that's what the community needs. So thanks.